President is becoming the Noah's Ark of American politics, a coalition whose passengers climb on board two by two. It includes Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders, as well as Republican Adam Kinzinger and, as of last night, the former number 3 House Republican with a last name practically synonymous with what the conservative Republican Party in its most strictly conservative iteration used to be all about. All of them now in the same boat to save democracy from a disgraced, convicted, twice impeached, 4 times indicted ex-president with a fondness for dictators abroad and a yearning to be one right here at home in America. All this critical post-Labor Day at this critical juncture in the 2024 campaign, conservative stalwart January 6th committee vice chair Liz Cheney announcing that she will vote for Vice President Kamala Harris for president. Here's that moment.
Because we're here in North Carolina, I think it is crucially important for people to recognize not only is what I've just said about the danger that Trump poses something that should prevent people from voting for him, but I don't believe that we have the luxury of writing in candidates' names, particularly in swing states. And as a conservative, as someone who believes in and cares about the Constitution, I have thought deeply about this. And because of the danger that Donald Trump poses, not only am I not voting for Donald Trump, but I will be voting for Kamala Harris in this election.
The Harris campaign responding to that moment, that endorsement, saying this, quote, "The vice president is proud to have earned Congresswoman Cheney's vote. She's a patriot who loves this country and puts our democracy and our Constitution first. For any American who is looking to reject the chaos and division of Donald Trump, to turn the page and pursue a new way forward that protects our freedoms and defends the American values we all believe in, there's a place for you in the Harris-Walz coalition, and we will continue working to earn your support." Liz Cheney adding her high-profile name to a growing list of current and former Republicans whose assessment of the stakes of this election have led to one inescapable conclusion: their support for the Democratic presidential nominee. Now, for Cheney herself, who supported Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020, her breaking point was, of course, the January 6th insurrection. Here's what she said on the eve of Trump's trial in the U.S. Senate.
What we already know does constitute the gravest violation of his oath of office by any president in the history of the country. And this is not something that we can simply look past or pretend didn't happen or try to move on.
And it was comments like that that cost her political career. And unlike just about all of her colleagues in the GOP who saw it the same way, who we know now from great reporting and some hot mic moments clearly understood Donald Trump's culpability and role in inciting the deadly insurrection, they either didn't have the appetite to pay a political price or didn't have the courage to defy the ex-president. But Liz Cheney helped drive the congressional investigation that uncovered so much of what we now know about the Trump coup plot, and all of it, again, at the cost of her own role in House leadership and eventually her seat in Congress.
"Be there," he instructed them. "Will be wild." As you will see, this was a pivotal moment. This tweet initiated a chain of events. The tweet led to the planning for what occurred on January 6th, including by the Proud Boys, who ultimately led the invasion of the Capitol and the violence on that day.
His response was to say they can march to the Capitol from the ellipse.
Something to the effect of, "Take the effing mags away. They're not here to hurt me. Let them in. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol after the rally's over."
Donald Trump made a purposeful choice to violate his oath of office, to ignore the ongoing violence against law enforcement, to threaten our constitutional order. There is no way to excuse that behavior.
Now, what's politically important is that Cheney becomes a really critical part of what's been coined by pollsters and political analysts of a permission structure for other voters who might see themselves in part of Liz Cheney's story and then go on to pull the lever and vote for Vice President Kamala Harris in November. Here's a little bit more of what Cheney said last night at Duke University.
I think that it is crucially important, and I would say especially to my fellow conservatives, that we think about the stakes and that we think about the extent to which we have a duty to put our country and our Constitution above partisanship. We all have that duty and responsibility.
Vote for Kamala Harris as an act of duty and patriotism. That coming from Liz Cheney is where we start today with some of our favorite experts and friends. Former Republican Congressman, now an MSNBC political analyst, David Jolly's here, plus political strategist and MSNBC senior analyst Matt Dowd is here. We start, though, with former January 6th Select Committee member, Democratic Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren of California. Congresswoman, your thoughts to Liz Cheney's endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris yesterday?
Well, I'm proud of Liz. We worked very hard together on the January 6th committee. She and I are not the same politically. She's a conservative Republican. I'm not. There are a lot of policy issues we don't agree on. But one thing we do agree on is the rule of law and protecting the Constitution. And that's why we worked so hard on the January 6th committee. And I think her statement is going to be important for a lot of people. She is so steeped in the Republican Party. I remember there were meetings that we would have during the January 6th committee, and we were in a conference room, and as we were sitting there, I looked on the wall and I realized there was a picture of her father, and the president on the wall. Well, I mean, that's her roots. She is so Republican, and that she would say the only way to honor our Constitution is not just to not vote for Trump, but to vote for the only real alternative, Kamala Harris, is significant. And I think it's brave on the part of Liz. And once again, something I deeply respect about her.
I love everything that you're saying. And it's important to point out that I worked for her father and George W. Bush, and I was a squish. I was a squishy California Republican. Matt Dowd can attest to that. They were not. And there were lots of instances where, I was sort of viewed, not distrustfully, but skeptically by folks closer to the Cheneys on the ideological spectrum. What seems to have developed, though, and really been punctuated by the vice president's convention, especially that fourth night when she formally accepted the nomination, is that a vote for Harris and all of these Republican endorsers are making an argument that it's the only patriotic thing to do, that it is unpatriotic at this point to support Donald Trump. What do you think about that coming from Liz, who has the goods and the receipts because of her role on the Select Committee?
Well, I think it's obviously true. And Adam Kinzinger actually spoke at the convention, making the same. Trump knew he lost the election. He's actually just recently admitted that on a podcast. He summoned a mob to Washington. He knew they were armed, and he sent them to the Capitol to overturn the election. I mean, what could be more unpatriotic than that? He wanted to overthrow the vote and upend our Constitution. There's no way to square that with the rule of law and patriotism. As Liz said in her statement, this has never happened before in American history, where we had a president who refused to honor his oath in this way. And so for those who are focusing on policy issues, the policy issues can ultimately be solved. But if we don't have a democracy, there's no vehicle for solving them. So that's really what's at stake here.